Bucknutters, welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, September 14th, 2016. I am Dave Biddle, joined by the one and only Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. Bill, obviously a big game this Saturday, Ohio State at Oklahoma. Also a big recruiting day for both the Buckeyes and the Sooners. They're both going after Jeffrey Okudah, and Okudah is making his first official visit of the season, and it is in Norman, Oklahoma, so he's going to be there for the big game. Give us your thoughts on that, Okudah being there as Oklahoma's guest. He's going to watch the Ohio State game, and just what effect you think this might have on him.
First of all, Dave, who did you say Ohio State is playing this weekend? It is Oklahoma. That's right. Yeah, I had to think about that for a second. Actually, I was asked on an Oklahoma radio show yesterday if the state of Ohio and Ohio State has been looking forward to this game, and I said, yeah, for like about a year now, I think. So, will be a huge game, obviously, and it's going to be a big recruiting game, as you mentioned, Dave. And Jeffrey Okudah will be there on an official visit, and Marvin Wilson is supposed to be there as a defensive tackle on an official visit, too. He's a guy that Ohio State offered a scholarship to as well. He's not going to end up at Ohio State, but Jeffrey Okudah certainly could. And, right now I think it's still Ohio State in the lead for Jeffrey Okudah. I think it will, as I've been saying for quite some time, come down to Ohio State or Oklahoma. He's got some friends that are Oklahoma guys that are certainly working on him that are from Texas. He is good friends with them, and that is going to play a little bit into his decision. But as I've long said, I think recruits almost always pick the school that's best for them, not best based on what happens in any one game or where their friends are going. And I think that'll be the case with Jeffrey Okudah. I expect him to make an official visit. And, the good thing for Ohio State, that is, the good thing for Ohio State fans is that they get the shot after Oklahoma. But certainly he's a guy to obviously be aware of this weekend.
How often does this happen? Is this pretty rare where a player who's being recruited by two schools and he's legitimately interested in those two schools, they might even be his top two schools, are playing each other, and that player is on an official visit for that game? Is this very rare, or does this happen more than I think?
It doesn't happen a lot, but I think if you go back a few years, it would happen more often with, say, Ohio State and Michigan because, they always play each other. And for so long, they were recruiting so many of the same guys. Now, that's not really the case as much anymore because Jim Harbaugh really hasn't gone head-to-head with Ohio State so far, at least, as much as in the past. So it used to happen quite a bit for Ohio State and Michigan. And I think maybe as things move forward that could be the case again. But to answer your question, it does happen sometimes, but I would not say a lot. More often when it does, it's obviously Ohio State with another Big Ten school because, they play those schools every year. Ohio State, Oklahoma, as you know, Dave, very rarely happens.
I want to reflect on the recruitment of Michael Jordan, Ohio State starting left guard, Michael Jordan, not the former North Carolina and Chicago Bulls player, and Washington Wizards, I guess. We're going to throw that in there, the last 2 years of his career. But Michael Jordan, high four-star recruit. If you say he's from Michigan, he'll correct you and say, no, I'm originally from Cincinnati. I just went to high school in Michigan. He even calls it that state up north. He's bought in quickly. But reflect on his recruitment. Maybe give a personal anecdote. What did you think about him? Did you think there was any chance that this could transpire? Because, again, he was a high four-star kid. He was recruited by a lot of big schools, but I don't think many people expected he was going to come in and start as a true freshman. Just reflect on his recruitment and maybe give some anecdotes about how you thought about Michael Jordan at the time.
Well, I cannot say that I thought he would come in and start as a true freshman just because that is so hard to do at a school like Ohio State on the offensive line. Usually it takes the offensive lineman, a little time to mature and develop and get bigger and stronger and all that. So it's pretty rare to happen on the offensive line. So, that tells you a little bit about Michael Jordan. But as far as when I think of Michael Jordan, the football player, of course, as you mentioned, not the hoops player. When I think of Michael Jordan, the first thing I think about is the day in camp, first time I saw him in person. He was at Ohio State's camp, and I had been watching other position groups, and I headed down to the offensive line area, and a good friend of mine that knows a lot about football recruiting that I've known for a long time, had just got done watching the offensive lineman, and he was headed to other positions. And we ran into each other, and he said, wait till you get down there where you're headed to the offensive line group. You're going to see a kid from Michigan, and that was Michael Jordan. He said he's easily the best offensive lineman in this camp today, and there were some good ones. But he said that he's easily the best offensive lineman in this camp today. He said just a really powerful young man. And he said, watch him strike blows. He said, you're going to be really impressed. And everything he said once I got down there and watched Michael Jordan was exactly true. The kid was the best offensive lineman in camp that day. He did strike a tremendous blow. He was just tremendous. And then later in the camp, later that day, I got down, or I watched Michael Jordan in the pass rush drills, and I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest. He didn't quite fare as well, and he didn't get offered by Ohio State that day, and I think that was probably the biggest reason. He struggled a little bit in pass protection drills. Obviously, they told him to work on that. He did work on it, and he got to the point where he was very good in pass protection as well, got offered a scholarship by Ohio State, and as you say, Dave, the rest is history. He's going to be, he's a potential three and done guy now at Ohio State, and a key member of the offensive line as a freshman. So certainly, Michael Jordan, kudos to him. He's got a great future ahead of him.
Yeah, he was ranked as the number 14 offensive tackle in the country, the number 128 overall recruit in the country in the 2016 class. Again, like I said, a high 4-star. Who else was really in the running for him? I know he had offers from several top programs, but was he just in love with Ohio State, and that's where he was going to go once he got that offer, or was there any other school that was kind of a close second?
Well, that's another kind of funny question. He was an interesting question that day at camp, he was sitting around during a break later in the day, and I went and sat down next to him and just kind of started talking to him, and he just seemed at that point like he was very wide open. Ohio State had not offered him a scholarship at that point, yet he was very interested in Ohio State. He talked about the main school that he talked about that day was Michigan. As it turns out, Michigan did offer him, but I never got the feeling that Michigan was totally sold on him like Ohio State ended up being sold on him. So, I think he was an open-minded kid, and once he got that Ohio State offer, that really impacted him. I think it was something that he's a very thoughtful kid, a smart young man, and I think as he thought about things and thought about the opportunities at Ohio State and all, and they pushed for him, and I think that really sealed the deal for the Buckeyes.
Hey, before I let you go, that big game you mentioned this weekend, Ohio State at Oklahoma, Buckeyes favored by 2 points. Give me a prediction. Who's going to win this game?
As I mentioned, I was on an Oklahoma radio show just yesterday actually, and asked that same question, and I told her I think that it's going to be a tremendous football game. I think it's going to be obviously a close one. The point spread would say that is what's going to happen, and I went with the point spread. I said that I think Ohio State will win this game by a couple points.
Excellent. That's my take, too. I think it's going to be a close game. I picked Ohio State 31, Oklahoma 27. I don't think Buckeye fans will care if it's a last-second field goal, just as long as the Buckeyes win. Maybe paying Oklahoma back for the last-second field goal in 1977. I don't remember that game very well. I was 1 year old, so I don't remember it too well. But Buckeyes and Sooners haven't played since 1983 when the Buckeyes went to Norman and took care of business 24-14. So we'll see what happens. I can't wait for it. Thanks to the knowledge of the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. I really appreciate it, Bill. And thanks to the listeners out there for tuning into the show. Hope everyone has a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.